Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I'm on chess.com right now. I'm going to have a look at a game played by one of my friends on the site. On the white end, we have a player rated approximately 1600, and on the black end, approximately 1650. This was a 30-minute time control game, no increment. So let's go through it, see what things we can take away from it. Starts off not so typical, the bird's opening, okay. Focusing on some control over the e5 square. Some pretty natural moves to start, nothing fancy. This is the first moment I'd like to touch on. White plays bishop to e2 right here, and it's certainly not a bad move, but I think it would be better to do what white eventually does in the game, which is to say b3 and then bishop to b2. I say this because the light square bishop actually has a couple of pretty reasonable options. Bishop e2, okay, that's fine, but what about bishop to b5? He might want to play to b5 in some cases. Keep in mind, one of the main ideas, or the main idea with this opening, is to have some control, to maintain control over this e5 square. f4 does that, knight f3 does that, b3 helps to deploy a piece which will eventually control e5. And it may seem awkward to view it like this, but the light square bishop is in fact able to help out with the control of e5, because there might be a knight who one day tries to control e5 and the bishop can take him out. So retain some flexibility with the light square bishop is what I'm getting at. I think better is to go in with these more locked in type moves, b3 and bishop to b2, and only then declare your light square bishop's intentions. Okay, well in the game he goes there right away. Some natural moves coming in, black getting their light square bishop outside of their pawn chain. White's now fianchettoed on the queen side, bishop e7, knight there in the center, and castle. Surprisingly enough, this is a losing move. Black castling. I didn't realize it at first, but yeah. It's a losing move. Surprising, isn't it? That's just 8 moves in, but yeah, it's a game loser. But neither side recognized one of the ideas that white has in this position. White followed with taking the knight and then deploying or developing a knight here, looking to have some pressure one day against c5. That's perfectly reasonable. And maybe white was even in we might say more of a positional mindset with this move, not looking at some more direct play, instead trying to hunt down the weak square c5. However, as it turns out, after this capture, white can be winning a piece, starting first with g4, making use of the bishop's post on e2. Queen and bishop are there to get this advance in. Eventually the bishop will be forced back here, whether or not he goes to e4. You just get a kick back here, and look out, the bishop is officially cooked. White has one moment to do this, as we'll see after a couple moves are inserted, knight here and bishop here. This is no longer as effective. So this was missed by both sides, this simple idea to actually capture the knight and then hunt down this light square bishop. But it's easy, again, it's easy to overlook something like this. I do it myself constantly. I'm more of a positional minded, and so I could see myself going in for something like this and not looking for this direct play here against the bishop. This is a very lashing out move, probably the most committal pawn move you can make for a kingside castled position, weakening 4 squares with just one move. But okay, in this case it's going to be netting some material, but it comes down to what frame of mind are you in. It'd be an interesting test to see, you present this position to 10 positional minded players and 10 tactical players. I think you're going to see the tactical players really see this advance. Of course, another way to look at it is if you are presenting a problem, just by the nature of chess problems, you're really looking for these forcing type moves. But in a game setting, With this position on board, I think the more tactical-minded players are going to be finding g4, whereas the positional players, maybe they look into this idea of focusing on that weak square, c5. Anyhow, okay, so a missed opportunity with this g4 move. Instead, knight c3, bishop d6, and now knight to a4 right away. Why exactly is g4 no longer as effective? Well, after g4, the bishop can drop back, and after f5, chop, chop. With these two moves now inserted, this queen is now closer to observing both g5 and h4. The bishop's no longer in her way on that e7 square. And so what this means is that in response to this recapture on f5, the knight can actually play here, and on pawn takes bishop, there's a perpetual check incoming, capturing on h2, king takes, followed up with queen check, and perpetual check on these two squares. So, in the game we had knight to a4, rook e8, bishop to e5. What would be better than bishop to e5 at this point? This is not a good option here. After bishop to e5, bishop takes, pawn takes, knight here. This is not a favorable transformation, a favorable pawn structure transformation. This pawn now needs some attention, and this queen can now really take up an excellent post on the g5 square, placing the pawn in a pin, having pressure on e3, which is soon to be a bit of a soft point in the white position. White will be needing to play a move like d4 to reinforce e5. This was not a good idea to play bishop to e5. What would have been better is still playing against the c5 square, or what we might call following through with one idea. Whether or not it's a good idea or not, still to actually try and push through with this idea. You're playing your knight here to focus on this square. c4 is going to put yourself into a position where the rook can also look to contribute to having pressure on the c5 square. This would have been a better move instead of playing the bishop into e5. Okay. In the game it was bishop e5, knight d7, bishop g4. Yeah, as it turns out, this is just not going to be the right idea. We had bishop g6, which is a fantastic defending piece, watching over f7 and observing c2, which turns out to be, well, the queen is tied down for the moment. What we end up having in the game is d4, and soon we could be having the c file opening up. There's ways that this bishop is helping to support a piece one day, a heavy piece one day, to enter the white position, pivoting on that c2 square. So really, I guess, the MVP piece so far currently in this position, one who is not only defending but also has some attacking possibilities. It's aggressive, and so that's a multi-purpose piece, we might say, is this light square bishop. Okay, d4 is on board. White needed to do something with e5. Takes. Black didn't have to take, by the way. You can first play this. I don't know how big a deal it would be, but, you know, for the moment, you know, after black captures and recaptures, if the queen wants to play here, she's not actually throwing a punch. She's not threatening to take something. So this might be an instance here where keeping the tension is good for at least this very moment. Queen g5, very active with the queen, hitting the pawn, pressure on the bishop. Indirectly, there's a pin. Super active post for the queen. In the game, there was first the capture, and then the queen decides to come over here. Not a bad move. This was better, however. One way I kind of view it as, you know, why might queen g5 be better than queen a5? Well, let me first point out queen a5. I'm pretty sure I see the idea that black has with this, which is to say they want to play c5 and break with the c file. This is the weakest point, the weakest pawn in the black position, so it makes sense to eliminate him for a perfectly healthy white pawn there on d4. But maybe you don't need the queen's help to get that c5 advance in. This is more aggressive. One of the big reasons I like this is because this is now a very nice option at some point. The queen is within checking distance, whereas over here on a5, there's no next move where she can be giving a check. It's just something to consider. I see that as a nice feature when trying to compare, well, move X or move A with move B. Move A, the queen coming over here, let's say, okay, she's developing. Does she have that possibility of one day maybe throwing a punch at the opposing king? In this case here, queen g5, maybe a little bit more active, having this check at some stage. Who knows if it'll play a great role or not, but I see this as being more active over here. The rook can fulfill this idea of getting the c5 advance in. No need to, let's say, devote a 9-point piece to helping out with this c5 advance. Okay, well, in the game, queen a5, queen f3. It's tough to suggest something actually for white. Black is the better side at this point here. This is not much of an issue at all. f7. I mean, there is some pressure here, but you're never really breaking this down until you can get rid of the light square bishop. So unless you're able to do something like h4, h5, it's just never going to happen. Something smashing through on f7. Let's see how this plays out. Black carries through with c5. Takes, and, well, it's tough to suggest something, actually. After this capture, Black's the side who's in the driver's seat. Takes, queen is there, taking with check. This is actually dropping a pawn here. So a better move than to be capturing like this would be to lend support to d4. If takes, at least, you have e5 covered, d4 is the soft point, but you're no longer having to worry about keeping a watchful eye over the e5 squares, or the e5 pawn, a pawn who is a bit more accessible at the moment here when compared to the d4 pawn. So c3 would have been better. Instead, we had the capture on c5. Black is the better side here, having the pawn up. Right? Yeah, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, six pawns for black, 4 for white. A very nice structure here for black. And this pawn here is one that may, in some cases, well, he might be rounded up at some point. Black, let's say, trying to double on the c file, pivoting on c3. At some stage, maybe he can scoop up that e-pawn. Let's see how black tries to convert this. So that was a lot of middle game stuff that I was just discussing there. Some ideas in the middle game. We've now shifted. We've transitioned here to the ending. How exactly to convert a position like this? How should black try and convert this pawn plus advantage? Let's see. First, we have a little kick of the bishop. Black is not inconvenienced, getting a piece involved, defending the bishop. White doubles, and now we have rook here. A very mysterious move. I'm not sure what the story is with that move. It's dropping f7. I can't explain that move. I don't know what happened there. So yeah, I don't know. Certain moves I'm at a loss for words, and that's one of them. So I don't know if maybe the idea is to say, you know what, I have the time to give up this pawn. I'm just going to push him to victory lane. Maybe that was a train of thought that black had. The train of thought I would have in this position is, hey, you know what? There's no rush. If this was in fact the train of thought black had with, I'll go ahead, grab my pawn, I'm going to push him away, or push him down to d1. I have the frame of mind here. I'd have the frame of mind on the black side to say, you know what, there's no rush. I'm just going to defend your one threat. And if I really want to look into doing this next, I'll do this. But I'm going to continue to play this position where I have that pawn plus. There's no need to give up a pawn. But you know what? We could even go a bit further, because black is not just giving up a pawn by playing rook here. They're giving up a pawn and now activating this bishop, who at this moment right here is biting on a rock. Without this pawn around, now this becomes a very deadly idea to just snip this pawn with check, and there goes your rook on c8. So this is a highly significant pawn, to say the least. You need to, no, I didn't mean to go all the way back, of course. You probably should be addressing this threat on f7 is what I'm getting at, instead of this mysterious rook to d8 move. How might you defend this square is another interesting question. If you'd like to, go ahead, pause the video. This pop quiz here. How would you defend f7? What move would you play to defend f7? Okay. How would you defend f7? My first thought was bishop here, but you could defend it indirectly. How about bishop here? Attack the rook, he goes away, and only then, well, actually you're defending like that. You're defending by actually throwing a punch at one of the rooks here. If at some stage you need to go back here, let's say the rook actually threw a counter punch, now you go here, and now there's that much less pressure on f7. So that might be an interesting point to be aware of. You don't have to defend it directly by playing to g6. You could defend it by being a bit more aggressive, trying to take the initiative, trying to give some direction to your opponent. Okay, rook there was played. Rook takes pawn. This was maybe still not a good move, actually, because of a sneaky reply here. There's an interesting tactical shot, a interference move, bishop to f5. That would have been a nice move, huh? Interfering with the rook's coordination and throwing a punch at the bishop. Best for white is to, well, not take here. Taking here, there's not a great discovery. Bishop takes, just king takes, and, well, you could take here, but the king comes over, and this is black's game to win for sure. At this point, if bishop f5 was played, best would be rook takes, pawn takes, and I don't know, bishop or rook takes, something like that. Okay, well, that was missed. Bishop f5 was not played, instead bishop d3, and we have now, there's a lot of back and forth that went on. We're about 25 moves in, and this game goes to about 45 moves. There's a lot of back and forth, especially when it was just a rook ending alone. I won't be covering all the details. I just want to give some pointers at certain positions. I won't be covering every line here. White does not, in this current position, have to react to the threat. There is a better move in capturing the pawn right away. And on bishop takes rook, you can recapture with the discovered check, and then scoop up the rook like this. And white is having a pawn plus here, and there's still some back rank issue here with the black king. But white reacted, playing rook f3. Black gives a check, king f2, another check. Also, this was still an option to do this interference tactic, but I guess if it isn't seen once, I don't know, maybe a good chance that it's still not going to be seen. Bishop f5 was back on board. Instead, another check, king g3. Bishop e4, we have the rooks exchange, and now unfortunately this pawn needs some support, huh? And it's a bit awkward. Rook there is played. What's better? It's tough to suggest something here. May want to consider giving the pawn up. I don't know if that's even best. It seems like way too passive to do it like that. I wonder on bishop here, takes, rook takes, and then maybe look to march this pawn. Just to have some active play. I don't know. It seems very awkward to have this rook completely defensive, because how do you ever really untangle? Actually, I'm seeing an idea right now. It might be related to g6, and only then bishop to f5. In fact, I think that's what happens in the game. Let's see. Rook there, pawn push, g6. That's right. Okay. I forgot about that point right here. So this was a nice way to eventually address the pressure on that e6 pawn. Following up, we do have more pressure. White makes use of that f6 square, bishop f5, chop chop. We have a rook ending alone where we have white as the slightly better side because of what exactly? This rook being the more active of the two. As soon as he leaves, well, there goes the e-pawn, and the king is ready to gobble up the f-pawn. Following, we have g4, rook there. This is not a good option. Black's getting behind the pawn, looking to just race him, but white is much, much quicker. Better would be, after this, to take and maybe look to activate your rook. You have to activate that rook at some point. This rook is doing too many good things here for the white side. It's not just about restricting the rook. That's not the only thing he's doing, but he's sectioning off this king too. No, it's just a terrible position, right? He's going to be stuck on g7 indefinitely. So recognizing that it's actually one piece who's tying up two, you have to make a break for it and go try to get active in some way. Rook to b8, capture on b3, maybe give a check, grab the a-pawn. Something active is necessary here on the black end. What was played at this point, rook d8, white grabs the pawn, black pushes, and now white follows up with a perfectly good winning move, rook to d7. You cannot exchange rooks. This is going to be winning for the white side. The king can hunt down this pawn here, but after pawn takes, it's just too many white pawns. White is winning this. So what played out was rook to b8, and now rook takes pawn. This is not best. This pawn is going nowhere. The rook is ideally placed right behind him. Cleanest win that I'm seeing here is to just take two now connected passed pawns. The rook can even inconvenience the king next, with this king now completely boxed out by the pawns, and you just march the king up. He's going nowhere. There's no rush with grabbing that pawn. I might want to even, on the white side here, I might recognize this pawn as one who is insignificant. You don't even need to take him. He's no threat at all. Let him push a couple times. Waste some tempi if black really wants to do that, and only then go ahead and scoop him up. But he's irrelevant. He should not be taken. There's no need to invest any time whatsoever capturing this pawn. Everything is under control in this current position. There's better things to be doing, capturing a pawn like this and having that duo. Well, in the game, captures. White is the better side here. Not with pushing. There's a check move that would have been better after this rook to... after rook d7, white is the better side, grabbing this pawn. After this e6 move, it's heading towards a draw. Black should play king f6. In the game, it was king f8. Why not move forward? You should move forward at this point here. At least you're giving, with king f6, some direction. King f8, you're really saying that you want to get to e7 next to stop this pawn, but there's two different avenues to get to that e7 square, so this is definitely the more aggressive. Should have been played king f6. Instead, king f8. And now we have h4. This king should look to get involved here a little bit. Improve that king position a little bit more. There's no need to play this, I don't think. King activity is going to be the better option here, or even getting this rook up, something like rook d7 if black is going in this direction with check. Moving up here, although, I don't even think that that's necessary to pull your rook off of this perfectly good square. I like doing this move first. No need to give away that a4 pawn right away, or at all. Keep the rook right here, get the king a little bit closer to your pawn. In the game, we had h4, a5, king here, and, well, this is now turning out to be a completely dead position. It's at this point that the players agreed to a draw. So I didn't touch on every position in this simplified rook ending alone, but again, just some quick points here. Retaining some flexibility with this bishop, not yet committing him to e2, going with this, probably a little bit better. some natural stuff coming in. Having this idea in mind with g4, so an idea that both sides missed. White goes for instead focusing on c5. Not the best option to have that transformation. Bishop e5. Not a good structure on the white end to end up with these double e pawns, and queen g5 being a bit better when compared to queen a5, a more aggressive post would be queen g5, and well, supporting d4 like this after c5, c3 would be better. Black is the better side, up a pawn, and how exactly to address that threat again against f7, bishop to d3, throwing a punch here. That's a good indirect way to defend that f7 square. Mysterious rook move, and this interference idea was available a couple times here, but yeah, I've probably spoke a bit too much on this one. Hopefully you're able to take something away from this, and as usual, feel free to leave any comments in the comment section below, and as usual, I hope you got something out of this video. Take care. Bye.